Peace and blessings. Hey y'all. Hey y'all. So listen, I know the political, the threshold or the major point of the political season has, kind of come and gone. At least there is a little bit of a reprieve until, of course, January when Trump becomes inaugurated. However, there still doesn't seem to be a dull moment in the political arena with all of the mumbo jumbo and all of this craziness that's going on, right? With the pardons, with the being on the verge of World War III, for those that believe so. I tend to not, but that's just my take on it. And at least I hope not. Let's put it that way. The newest news is this pardon situation with Hunter Biden. And I think, it's not uncommon for pardons to be issued, especially kind of heading out the office and at the end of the term of the presidency for those that you choose to issue and grant clemency on. However, because of the nature of this president and the hypocrisy that some people or many people feel has enveloped his term, his political career, I would even venture to say it definitely leaves cause and pause for conversation, right? So I'm going to go back, and the starting point of this live is going to be with the 1994 crime bill. And the reason I'm going to introduce this as a reactionary video or, giving context to this particular video is because it's no secret that one of the biggest battles that Hunter Biden has faced in his life has been drugs, right? And that's not alleged, right? So with this crime bill, some of the terminology and the expression, for lack of a better term, that Biden uses in this 1994 crime bill, or to introduce it into legislation and then ultimately getting it to pass, I think deserves some mention. So without further ado, salute to the chat. Let's roll.
In the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter, or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons.
And I find this ironic, and this terminology actually very ironic, due to the fact that his son has just been pardoned for gun charges, okay, among other charges, but the most recent have been gun charges. So I just wanted to mention that. Pause for the cause. Let's go. Why is doing this? Hold on, y'all.
So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now.
So he used the terminology and the term predators, right? There is, depending on what social media platform you choose to utilize, there is mounds of information, videos, footage, and verbiage out there to basically confirm and to reiterate that one of the other challenges that his son has had has actually been displayed on this apparatus as porn. So I find it to be extremely interesting that he used, even though, again, this term and this 1994 crime bill was indeed in 1994. Now, mind you, before we continue, I just wanted to kind of give some of my context to the 19th, because I was grown. I was an adult. I was very aware, very in the loop of the 1994 crime bill, which contributed to mass incarceration, particularly and especially amongst Black and Brown Americans, for offenses, including but not limited to drug use, right? Of course, as we just stated, an issue that Hunter Biden has publicly struggled with, right? While the president framed his son's pardon as an effort to combat politically motivated persecutions, the decision has definitely, as we also stated, has drawn some accusations of hypocrisy, which is why I am actually showing this video, is to set the storyline or the basis of the hypocrisy that a lot of the country, all the way from the political parties, all the way down to the citizens, find it truly hypocritical, especially coming upon the fact that initially he has been quoted several times stating that he had no intentions on pardoning Hunter Biden, his son, right? So the relationship that they have between personal leniency and the past advocacy for justice, it just highlights a lot of concerns when it comes to the American legal system. Just wanted to put that out there. Let's continue.
And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society. And the truth is, we don't very well know how to rehabilitate them at that point. That's the sad truth. I'm the guy that said, rehabilitation, when it occurs, we don't understand it and notice it. And even when we notice it and we know it occurs, we don't know why. So you cannot make rehabilitation a condition for release. That's why in our system, there's the federal system, you serve 85% of your time. It's a shame, but we don't know how to rehabilitate. But there is a consensus, and I will cease. A, we must make the streets safer. I don't care why someone is a malefactor in society. I don't care why someone is antisocial. I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society, try to help them, try to change their behavior. That's why we do in this bill. We have drug treatment and we have other treatments to try to deal with it. But they are in jail, away from my mother, your husband, our families. but we would be absolutely stupid as a society if we didn't recognize the condition that nurtured those folks still exist. And we must deal with that. Take back to the streets.
Okay, so the only other thing that I want to mention here, or a couple of points that I would like to make. First of all, he spoke and he was very candid about stating that we don't know how to rehabilitate. So instead of rehabilitating, we're just going to go ahead and plan on throwing them into jail or into the prison system, getting them off of the streets. Well, that's obvious because with the struggles that Hunter Biden has had, I don't know if and how many times he attempted to go through a rehabilitation process, but I mean, just a couple of years ago, there was cocaine found in the White House, right? So not saying who it belonged to. I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm just saying that this news hit the forefront during his presidency. And in the midst of all of that, he has a son under the reign as well. And in the midst, back and forth, if he didn't live there, I don't know the particulars in that as well. However, he has definitely, up until recently, has been also struggling with drug addiction. So when it comes to, as Ms. Chicago was saying, with the hypocrisy, it's documented and it is apparent that he said several times, nope, when he was asked, I have no plans on pardoning my son, just to turn around and do so, and to go 11 years back, which is also a point of contention for many of the political leaders and, the citizens as well. So right now we have a situation where he has had a gun case dismissed. He's had a tax case in California dismissed that totals up $1.4 million in taxes. Boy, wouldn't we like any of us that have any type of tax debt to be eradicated based off of our last name, right? There's some contention there. There's definitely some dispute. However, it is still what it is, right? And this is in the midst of any political and legal fallout. So you got people within the party that are absolutely feeling some type of way about this, even in his own party, right? So the next video going to show is going to, it's a news clip where you have a Democrat and a Republican actually going toe-to-toe on air as to one defending, the fact, of course, the Democrat is saying, yep, we don't blame him. Yeah, we know what he said, but, we got to expect this. This is what we pretty much should kind of prepare for. It's not any different than what Trump did or other presidents, and then we have, of course, the Republican Party, and I'll just let them speak for themselves. Let's go. Salute to the chat. Salute to the chat. Hey, babes. Hey, babes. What's up, Bolo? Let's go, y'all.
Well, there are Democrats saying they're not happy that President Biden made this decision.
Yeah, well, tough. The president went ahead and did what he thought was right for him and to protect his son. And I think there are going to be Democrats who, from a political perspective, are going to feel like they may have to say something, but who probably on the inside understand why President Biden went ahead and did this. And I got to tell you, crowing from Republicans, and I know my dear friend Scott will have plenty to say about this, but we're talking about, Donald Trump is a convicted felon who literally had pardoned his daughter's father-in-law and just made him ambassador to France. So
when all else fails, let's deflect to Trump. Let's go back to Trump. Let's blame Trump. Trump hasn't even been inaugurated or sworn into office yet, and yet and still somehow his name is just reverberating all through these streets every time somebody wants to hold the Democratic feet to the fire or to even give them pushback on certain hypocritical statements. Because as we all know, the internet is forever. Once you put it out there on these airwaves, you're not going to be able to walk that back in grace. Either you're going to have to retract it, own it, just outright lie, or otherwise. So yeah, let's just blame Trump.
Talk about, who's using what system in what fashion. Let's put it all on the table, and let's be honest about the fact that Donald Trump doesn't really have a leg to stand on in this one.
So, Scott Jennings, what about that? Steve Bannon, Charles Kushner, Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, and Charles Kushner, not just pardoned, but also apparently about to be nominated ambassador to France.
Joe Biden is leaving office making the strongest possible case for Donald Trump that anybody could possibly make it, and that's that our government and our justice system is of, by, and for the elites and nobody else. He ran to banish Trumpism from our political system in this country, and he has left it politically and now institutionally the strongest possible political force in this country. It is a complete and utter failure by the head of the Democratic Party and the President of the United States. Never again do I want to hear, oh, Donald Trump's a liar. You can't believe anything he says. Donald Trump will abuse his power. Donald Trump will only use the system to benefit himself and his family and so on and so forth. Never again. I have one question for Karen, and that is, why did he need an 11-year blanket pardon going back to 2014 when Joe Biden was the vice president? We are sitting on the biggest cover-up of who knows what crimes, and Joe Biden, amazingly, knows exactly, roughly, when it started. He knows just...
So if you aren't aware, one of the reasons that Biden substantiates and defends why he is going back 11 years on this pardon for Hunter Biden is because he feels like he was unfairly targeted for political reasons, as well as treated differently from others in similar situations just because his last name is Biden, right? But it's like, okay, so do we get to honor this both ways? Okay, so do you get the good in the good, or just the good in the bad, or how do we balance this thing out? So Biden works for you when it comes to a full pardon, being able to go back as far as 11 years, but it's not fair because your name is Biden that you are being wrongfully targeted or quote unquote accused of certain things, or the focus is primarily on you, and now because of the status and of your last name, now all of a sudden you are target and primary number one. So that is the defense that Biden's in his stance in stating, okay, this is why I have gone back 11 years to pardon Hunter Biden.
About when it all started, he's leaving office in complete and total disgrace. He is a liar, and there is no other way to spin this today. This has nothing to do with Trump and everything to do with the character of Joe Biden.
Let me get some context of what Scott is saying just there, Karen, before you address it. Because this pardon, I do not believe we have mentioned it, not just granting clemency for the crimes for which Hunter Biden was convicted of illegally purchasing a gun, tax evasion, but also a blanket pardon for any federal crime.
So I just wanted to give that little clip there in regards
basically
to,
between 2014 and 2024. So what about that literal get out of jail free card for a 10-year period, Karen?
Well, look, literally, the president recognizes that Republicans have been for years now trying to attack the president himself, go after his family. And when you have someone who literally ran their campaign on retribution, on the idea of I will be your retribution and getting back at his enemies, I would imagine, obviously I haven't spoken to the president about this, but I would imagine the president took a look at this and said, I want to make sure this is ironclad, that there is nothing that can be done to circumvent what I'm going to do to protect my son and to try to take the target off of his back once and for all. So that's my reading of it. But again, I think that the hypocrisy here it is astounding. I mean, Donald Trump has said and done things, said things and done other things. And again, he's a convicted felon himself. He has used his power to benefit his friends, his wealthy allies. In this instance, we're talking about a man who decided to take care of his son after years of unrelenting attacks. I don't blame him.
Scott, did you have the same concerns over a justice system for the elite, as you put it before, when it was Donald Trump pardoning Steve Bannon, Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, Charlie Kushner? Same concern then?
Listen, you guys can spend all day long trying to spin this, that this is Donald Trump's fault, that this is somehow caused by Donald Trump. Oh, he's appointing the wrong people. Oh, he did it. Oh, this is the worst possible thing a president could possibly do to his party and to the country, to sit for a year and say, I will not do this. I will not do this. The rule of law is sacred. We have to respect the justice system. Juries, we have to respect juries. We have to respect the guardrails and the norms of our democracy. These people are liars. Inflation, it's transitory. Afghanistan, it's a success. The border is secure. Robert Hur is a liar. The videos are cheap fakes. Biden has a cold. He'll never drop out. Oh, I'll never pardon Hunter. It's all a lie. It is all a grift. Every American, except the most partisan, brain-rotted people, are going to be outraged by this today. He is going to leave off. You think 38, 39% job approval is bad? Just you wait. Just you wait. He's disgraced today. Outrageous.
You don't need to, but Scott, you don't need to hurl names and say people like me are brain-rotted.
So basically they go back and forth, and they it's okay, the hypocrisy of it, as opposed to, well, he said that he would never pardon him, and then he turned around and did it, and then he went back 11 years, and then he forgave all of his transgressions, and all of his charges have been released, and including back taxes or tax liens or tax charges, all of these different things, right? And so again, I don't think it's abnormal to assume that a presidency would not exercise some clemency to people that they feel deserve, to have their slate wiped clean. They have, either learned from their mistakes, or they have paid for their transgressions, whatever the case may be. But my question is I have not seen a list of anyone outside of Biden, Hunter Biden, being pardoned. And he has been in office for 4 years. Well, another thing that I found interesting, I'm just going to pivot for real. It's all related, but my attempt and my objective is to absolutely show a correlation in character and in a level, in my opinion, of selfishness that this president has exhibited all the way throughout his political career, up until right now. So right now we have homeless veterans, we have a homelessness epidemic, we have a drug epidemic related to and facilitated largely in part by open borders, with fentanyl and drug trafficking coming into this country from other countries, neighboring countries, and alike. And nothing has been done on that front, pre-election or post-election. None of those things have been addressed. None of those things have been brought to the table. There have been no solutions that have been proposed. And yet, Biden just gave Africa $1 billion to help their economy and their disenfranchised citizens, but we have no record or no mention of anybody in this country as far as the population that is disenfranchised to be helped before he passes the baton to Trump in January. Check this out.
That's the right thing for the wealthiest nation in the world to do. And today, I'm announcing over $1 billion in new humanitarian humanitarian support for Africans displaced from homes by historic droughts and food insecurity. We know African leaders and citizens are seeking more than just aid. You seek investment. So the United States is expanding our relationship all across Africa, from assistance to aid, to investment to trade, moving from patrons to partners to help bridge the infrastructure gap. I was told, by the way, when I got elected, I could never get an infrastructure bill passed.
So, $1 billion, y'all. Now, my question is what about, we just had Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton that just tore a new behind through the southern eastern region of this country. And the most that I have heard, and many others have heard, is a $750 loan to those victims of Hurricane Helene as U.S. American citizens, taxpayers, homeowners, landowners of the kind, right? But you got $1 billion, whether it's in aid, whether it's in a combination of different resources, including monies, whatever it is in the form of that you are sending into Africa, into African nations, plural, I haven't heard any priority or precedence being put over any United States citizens. Again, also the only individual that I have seen or heard of him pardoning that has just smeared the news and has hit every headline of every major publication as of today is him pardoning his son because he doesn't want his son targeted. Again, I thought you were here to serve the people, not the people serving your best interests. I don't know where we got this whole thing twisted around because you were elected or selected, but you were placed and you were put through no power of your own, but from the people, supposedly, right? And I say that loosely. You were put there and elected there to do a job of service to the country and to take priority and to put precedence over parts of the country that need it the most. I don't know of anybody that needs it the most more than our vets and more than the hurricane victims as of current date, right? But you got $1 billion in whatever resources or monies to send over to African nations. Oh, trust and believe there is a reason why. There is a reason. And it's not because of selflessness, in my opinion. It definitely, and it will come out because we still got a little less than a month left in 2024. But I personally don't feel like the season of exposure will end on December 31st. It will come out as to why, but I think it's one of the many slaps in the faces, along with the immigration issue and many others with inflation, with people struggling with the housing market, with the deficit, with all of these other different issues that we currently face as a nation, that you can publicly announce like you're the Good Samaritan and you're the Samaritan of the decade, that you're going to help African nations. Why? You won't even help your own people on this soil, right? So I just wanted to give that some, a little bit of shine in case people were unaware. When you're dealing with members of both parties, they're arguing that pardon undermines the public trust, like they care about the public trust. However, we're just, for the sake of argument, going to put that in there inside of the justice system, and raises concerns about fairness. There are perks that go along with the position, with the job. many perks, spoken as well as unspoken, right? So we're going to wrap this up and then we're going to go briefly off into Tiffany Henyard, but there is one more video pertaining to Hunter Biden I definitely want to highlight because it is on record that he stated he was not going to pardon his son. I will let him say it for himself.
Thanks, Mr. President. About 2 weeks ago, you changed course to allow Ukraine to fire U.S. weapons into Russia. Given the reported successes, would you consider further expanding the parameters on U.S. weapons into Russia, even despite your concerns about escalation? And on the news from home, you're going through something that so many American families go through, the intersection of addiction and the criminal justice system, but you're not like most families. Was your son able to get a fair trial? Do you believe the Justice Department operated independently of politics? And for President...
Let me answer your question and you ask his question, okay? With regard to the first question, it is clear that the near abroad, meaning just across the line of the border with Russia and Ukraine, that it makes a lot of sense for Ukraine to be able to take out or combat what is coming across that border. In terms of long-range weapons, longer-range weapons into the interior of Russia, we have not changed our position on that sort. With regard to the question regarding the family, I'm extremely proud of my son, Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know. And I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
There you go. Know what else to say. He said he wasn't going to pardon him. And now not only has he pardoned him, but he's given him what they call a steep pardon, right? So with that being said, I think we beat that dead horse with a stick. I appreciate y'all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, everybody. And if you're coming in late, please feel free to catch the replay. I appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful day. Peace.